Hello, friends. This is David Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the world's most beautiful melodies. And this one was one of your suggestions, a suggestion so appropriate. I was amazed. You'll just slap yourself, oh, ouch, on the head and say, wow, why didn't I think of that? And the melody in question is La Calinda by Frederick Delius. This is really a wonderful tune. In fact, the commentator who requested it said, it really is one of those melodies that sounds like it's existed since the beginning of time, and it is. And Delius sort of just found it somewhere rather than composed it. It's absolutely gorgeous. And the first place it appears is here in the Florida Suite. And that's where he discovered it early in his career. And then he stuffed it into his opera Koanga, where for some reason he thought it made an appropriate dance of an African prince or his people or something like that. I don't know. And then he separated it completely as La Calinda. And so there was kind of a joke among us Delian type people back in the days when we were fixated on Delius, because he is a fascinating composer and a fascinating character, that, when he wasn't whooping it up down on the plantation in Florida catching syphilis, he was trying to find someplace else to stuff La Calinda. But there's a good reason for it, because the tune is so catchy. It's absolutely glorious. And so, Delius's music is so difficult to categorize because it has like not a lot of rhythm and in a post-Wagnerian kind of way. It's incredibly fluid. It's mostly slowish. It's generally pastoral in character. It doesn't have, huge volcanic, percussive climaxes, although he often uses a very, very large orchestra. It's a totally individual voice, and he's always hovered on the edge of the repertoire. Had it not been for Thomas Beecham, the conductor, who passionately advocated for his music, it might not even have made it that far. It's an acquired taste. It's unusual stuff. But one thing Delius always did have was this amazing fluency. The music just it doesn't ever bog down. You may find it boring because it doesn't necessarily ever go anywhere either, but it never bogs down, and it's fascinating. Mostly all of his music is programmatic, except for his concertos. It's all based on nature imagery and nature poetry. He was an avowed Nietzschean, for what that's worth. Really a character. Couldn't stand England, even though he was English. He spent his life in France because I guess he thought that the French were somehow a little bit more into the sensual aspect of things that his music really, really evokes. If it said that, English music has no sex, but Delius is an exception. But he had to go to France. That's the joke. Anyway, I am delighted to be able to play as one of the most beautiful melodies in the world. Absolutely, the tune La Calinda as it appears in the second half of the first movement of the Florida Suite, which is Daybreak and Dance, and it's the dance. It's about 4 minutes long, and I'm going to play the whole thing because, thanks to Naxos, I can, and because, as I said, Delius is so fluent. There's no place to cut into it. You don't want to cut into it. You want to hear it just unfold organically. And this certainly does. It's just an incredibly beautiful, unbroken 4-minute long arch of music. And so here is the English Northern Philharmonia under David Lloyd Jones on Naxos in Delius's La Calinda, or the dance in the Florida Suite, or the dance in the opera Koanga, which actually is on this disc too, not the opera, the closing scene therefrom. Here you go. definitely a piece of exceptional beauty and also a real earworm. I mean, you're not going to get that tune out of your head. Trust me. And if you're a tambourine player, you're going to go to sleep going chunk, 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 chunk. It's going to drive you crazy. Trust me. I've done it. Oh my God. But absolutely magnificent. And thank you. Thank you so much for this fabulous suggestion. I'm so glad that we got to it. I mean, like I said, you made the suggestion and I immediately thought to myself, of course. Of course, it's without question one of the world's most beautiful melodies. And I am delighted to have this opportunity to present it to you now. So keep on listening, folks. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.